This is Mike from Digital Strategies, and this is the Battlefly Racer Comprehensive Guide. Before we begin, a slight disclaimer: the gameplay you will be seeing is based on the alpha version of Battlefly Racers. Some elements of the game may not be in the final version. So with that said, let's begin the video. Battlefly is a game cartridge in the Treasure ecosystem that aims to become the Nintendo of the metaverse, and games inside the Treasure ecosystems are called cartridges. So we already covered how to buy and stake your first Battlefly in the old Treasure Marketplace on another video. You could check it out, we will link it on the description down below. So Battlefly Racers is an endless runner game where you race a Battlefly across obstacles and harsh conditions. If you're familiar with games like Subway Surfers or Temple Run, you'll be more familiar with this game. But if you're new to the endless runner genre, the game is fairly simple. The goal is to get the highest possible score, and to control your Battlefly, you use WASD or the arrow keys. So here we are in the menu. You could see there are two game modes for the game: the daily race and the free play. There's actually no difference between the two, except only the daily race affects a daily leaderboard, and also you gain rewards and limited entries. I suggest you try out the free play game first before heading out to compete in the leaderboards, since every Battlefly you own only gets you 5 chances to race in the daily race. The Battlefly team said that this game will be free to try on release, and you won't need a Battlefly to play. This information may change though, so be sure to join Battlefly's Discord server that I will also link down below. So there are multiple ways to accumulate points, but the main source is from surviving. The longer you survive, the higher your points. You can also increase your points by getting bonus points. First is by collecting Nectar, the round blue orb that gives 5 points based on our testing, and a close call bonus, which you get by being close to obstacles and gives 2x points for about 1 or 2 seconds. This actually can immensely increase your points in the game. So as an example, I'll show you 2 different runs to illustrate my point. So in this run, I'm not going to get any points and any close calls. So I got 76 before I died. Now let's try it by getting bonus points and see the difference. So I got a close call and this first Nectar, and I got another close call and another Nectar. I got the point of around 120, which is a big difference from the initial 74 points that I got. This illustrates my point on why getting close calls and nectars is one of the most important and also the easiest ways to increase your score in the game. The game also has multiple ways to kill you, from spiky snake-like gears, to gates, to balls, yes, raining balls, to that one mechanic that I hate the most, the wind. So let's discuss the strategies we've formulated playing the game for a couple of days. First, let's discuss the wind. There will be a warning shown in the screen when it activates. After a second, it will start to take effect gradually, which will steer your Battlefly to the left or right. There's a subtle wind effect that you can see, and you will have ample amount of time to react before it starts. The technique here is to anticipate where you should go before the wind starts to make sure you can compensate for the loss of mobility and dexterity. Do not overcompensate though, as once your Battlefly is tilted on a certain angle, it turns slower than usual. You can also extend to the outer boundaries of the game, which can be used as a last-ditch strategy to evade obstacles. This is only recommended when the wind is about to run out, and to repeat as a last-ditch effort to evade an obstacle, because going out of bounds will kill you. Now that we know about the wind mechanic, let's discuss the obstacles in the game. First obstacle is DNA, as shown here. So our technique here is we usually go to the lower left or the upper right of the obstacle, depending on the variation, flying through the better openings and avoiding the non-symmetric shapes. There are no sharp turns required, so having wind in this obstacle is just a matter of anticipation and preparation. The next obstacle is the mountain. There are multiple variations, but usually there are 2 holes in the mountain, one on top and another below. Some variations are high enough to expose the lower area, but some are too low to expose them. The lower area is extremely dangerous to go through since mountains usually come in chains, and if you get a medium height next, it's almost impossible to recover, so the safer bet is to go through the middle hole. Also, if the mountain is low, do not move up the second you pass through. There may be boulders that are blocked from your view that are placed there and designed to kill you. You will have ample time to react and spot if the boulder is there before proceeding. This obstacle is extremely hard with the wind because there's only a very small hole in the middle where your Battlefly can pass through. With ample anticipation of the wind mechanic, you will pass through this obstacle with no problem. The next ones I like to call the floating blades. This one is easier in my opinion. You can either go medium risk and take all the nectars together with a close call bonus, or play safe and go to the far left or far right portion of the obstacle, which are thinner than the center portion, as these obstacles require moving up and down, so the movement of the wind doesn't actually bother this one as much as the next one. Next, I call this one the pencils. Very similar to the floating blades, you can just go for nectar and the close call bonus. Or to play safe, just go to the top area, which are pointed and thin. And you also gain extra visibility to strategize the next obstacle. With the wind, you need to compensate because you could only either go straight or where the wind goes. So for example, the wind is going left. You will never be able to turn right because the wind is strong, so you need to take this into account. The gates are arguably the most difficult obstacles for beginners, since it requires perfect timing when navigating to survive. If the wind is activated, this means insta-death. But it has one weakness that I always abuse. To avoid everything, just go to the far left side of the map and remember to tap left every time the gates are near. You get a close call bonus and some nectars to boot, which turns this from the most difficult one to arguably the easiest obstacle because of this one technique. With the wind, the best strategy is to stay far left, but be careful if the wind is going to the left because you can go out of bounds. If the wind is going right, just steer left and you are okay. But also remember to be on the left hand side before the wind starts. Finally, we have the raining balls, which, as the name suggests, will start to rain huge red balls with varying velocity. It has two variations. It either spawns from the top left, falling to the lower right, or top right, falling to the lower left. It basically falls diagonally, so the safest strategy, in my opinion, is to go to the other top side. For example, if the ball spawns on the top left side, you go to the top right side, and also vice versa. With the wind, you just need to be very careful and avoid the balls. This is actually not a difficult obstacle, as long as you take into account the varying speeds of the balls. Now, I'm going to teach you guys how to use a controller, yes, a console controller on Battlefly Racers. I'm going to use a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. You could also use a PlayStation controller or any compatible controller for your PC. So now we're in the Battlefly menu, and to do that, you just need to take note that Battlefly Racers actually use WASD and also arrow keys as movement controls. So we're going to use a program called Steam. You go to Settings, you go to the Controller tab right here, and you press Desktop Configuration. So this is how it should look like. This is the Steam desktop configuration. So to add the arrow keys to your controller, you just click this one, your joystick. You change the style of input into the directional pad. After that, make sure to check every button that it's binded to the correct buttons. So based on this is now okay. Should go back. I should click done. I will press OK. There are some limitations with this process, however. Since it becomes an arrow key instead of the usual joystick, you cannot use the sensitivity of your joystick to slowly move your Battlefly. It will always turn at full speed, regardless of how strong you turn your joystick. So that's our technique and our strategy guide for the upcoming Battlefly Racer. If you have discovered other tips or techniques that you'd like to share, comment down below. We'd really appreciate it. Also, check out our socials that we have posted on the description below. Now, check out some of our runs that we want to share with you guys. If you like this content and would like to see more magic content in the future, be sure to like this video and subscribe so that you'll get notified when we upload a new video. If this is your first time in the magic ecosystem, do check out our tutorial on how to get your first magic token using Binance, SushiSwap, and the Arbitrum bridge.